Yes.
It is 4 minutes after 6. I will now call to order the June 8th, 2015 meeting of the East Hampton Conservation Commission. The meeting is being recorded. There's a sign-in list going around. Keep it moving and hand it to anyone new that might come in. That'd be great. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? All right. We'll move on to the public hearing for a notice of intent, Mass DEP file number 151283, filed by Lathrop Retirement Community of East Hampton, 100 Bassett Brook Drive, regarding invasive plant species management activities within bordering vegetated wetland in the 100-foot buffer zone.
That's us.
That's you. Please come forward, join us,
Okay.
and
All right.
make your presentation.
All right.
And please introduce yourself for the record.
All right. My name is Barbara Walvard. I am the
Say your
chair.
last name, Barbara?
Yes, WALVOORD.
Thanks.
And I'm the chair of the Land Conservation Committee of Lathrop Communities. I'm a resident. We have a committee of 12 people. 3 other committee members are here with me tonight. And they are Sharon Grace.
That's fine. Well, if you speak, I'll get your name on it.
okay.
Uh-huh.
So thank you.
And Lynn Howe and Roger Herman, and we'll
Excellent.
ask them to just say a word
Sure.
or two in a minute.
Absolutely.
And we also have Joan Deely, who is representing our contractor for the removal of invasive plants.
Okay.
She's with Politan Ecological Services, and she'll speak also and be able to answer technical questions about the methods that they're going to use. So basically, if you wish, I'll just speak for like 2 or 3 minutes and kind of summarize our project, or do you want to move straight to questions? What do you want to
No,
do?
please
Go ahead.
tell us what you have in mind.
Okay, what we have in mind. We have 177 acres on the East Hampton campus of Lathrop. And I don't know, I suppose about 35 of them are built on, the rest are open land. It's forest, fields, meadows, pools, streams. And when Sharon and I moved there 2 years ago, some work had already been done, but we saw, because we had had experience in a previous property, we saw that invasive plants were moving in.
Mhm.
It wasn't hopeless. It's not like some other land in East Hampton that we all could name, where it's just a total jungle of invasives, but they were definitely coming in. And all the usual suspects, so multiflora rose, bush honeysuckle, buckthorn, all the suspects. And so we got together a committee. It's now 12 people. We worked very closely with management. They know we're here tonight, and they're fully supportive of our efforts. We've gotten a grant to help pay for our work. We've also matched the grant funds with money that we've raised from residents. And so our plan, as detailed in our application, and Joan will answer technical details about it, our plan is to remove invasive plants on our land. We won't be able to do all the acres right this minute, but we're seeking permission to remove invasives on this land. We'll move forward as we can. We have the money and the contract to do a good piece of it. And
Did you have the contractor, or are you in?
yes,
Okay.
the contractor is Politan
Oh, right, Politan
Ecological
Gotcha.
Services, and Joan is here
Okay.
representing them. We've also worked with 3 different consultants. One is Lori Sanders, who I think you know,
Mhm.
very well-known naturalist in the area. She inventoried our land and gave us advice about what the priority areas should be for removal of invasives and different possible ways to go about it, uses of our land. And then there were also a couple of other consultants that we engaged in 2014, and we came up then with a long-range plan for management of our natural lands. So I want Lynn and Roger and Sharon just to say a word or two about the commitment of the committee and the long-range possibilities of keeping this going.
Okay.
So Sharon, you want to begin?
Sure.
This is Sharon Grace.
Okay.
Her last name is Grace.
Yep.
Yes, well, as Barbara said, when we moved in and saw the invasives coming in, we wanted to, and saw that it wasn't as hopeless as it had been on a piece of property that we owned before, that we wanted to become involved with clearing those out as quickly as we could so that it didn't become totally overgrown. We didn't want to live there and see all these invasive plants just moving in and spreading out and taking over the woods. And so that's how I guess
Yeah.
that's my involvement with the committee.
The committee,
is to
yeah, okay.
Stay involved with that.
Lynn, this is Lynn Howe, Howe,
Thanks.
and her first name is Lynn, Lyn.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a resident. I moved here before Sharon and Barbara moved in, and I just got more and more engaged the more I heard about it. And I must say, this is a very active committee, and people have been really committed. There's a lot of energy there among the people. And I feel that I've learned a lot from, your information and activities, and it's sort of a focus of action, I would say, in our community right now.
This is Roger Herman is next, Herman.
Thanks.
Roger Herman. I was here in January at night when it was too cold to get out of the car. Everyone was very cordial, and we followed up, obviously, on your directions and advice. And I just want to say I'm very eager and willing to be a steward of this land that that we will be working on, because we all know that invasives have a way of returning, and we want to keep an eye out for them.
And then this is Joan Deely from Politan Ecological Services.
Okay.
And Joan can speak for a little bit and answer questions about the exact methods that our contractor will use. Let me add that thousands of invasive plants have been already removed from non-wetland areas by our volunteers. So we really have a very involved committee, and they've been out there hacking away at honeysuckle, pulling up garlic mustard. But now we really need Politan Ecological Services. So Joan.
Okay.
We started working on this property last year, and we've already, as Barbara said, we've also done some work in uplands, but there's two spots in particular where there's jurisdictional wetlands, which is why we filed the NOI and need to follow the order of conditions that you have given us. We when we work in these areas, we follow the protocol that is laid out in this National Grid right-of-way work, where within 10 feet of a jurisdictional wetland, we don't use any herbicides, we do only hand work. And then beyond that, we use only glyphosate, which is a sensitive area herbicide that's allowed to be used in wetland areas. And in this two places, a lot of what we're going to be doing, I believe, is cut stump work, which, if you're familiar with the process, you cut the shrubs and paint the herbicide right on the stump, so it's very targeted. And then very limited foliar work for the lower stuff that's growing on the ground. It is too small to be treated that way. And then, yeah, those are the only two places, because this one smaller wetland that's along this walking trail is largely bittersweet. It's a huge, extremely unpleasant tangle of bittersweet. And then along this field edge is a lot of multiflora rose and also bittersweet that's growing up into trees. So a lot of that's very well suited to the cut stump work. And that's all I can say right now, unless you have questions. Or I'll be happy to answer your questions, I should say.
So I'm interested in the work that was quantified in the wetland area, and if you could describe that a little.
Where we don't use.
I'm assuming that would be, because that's obviously within that 10-foot zone,
Yeah.
that would be all hand pulling? Is that?
Hand pulling, mostly hand pulling, and depending on the wishes of a commission, we can do hand wiping with,
Okay.
you put an herbicide on a glove and wipe the leaves.
It's a very discreet application.
Yeah, some commissions allow that and others don't. And it has to be, and then everything else has to be mechanically removed.
So the wetland area where you'll be working within the boundary, what are the general characteristics of that wetland itself, if
Um,
you can revisit that.
This, the one along the trail is a bit of a depression, and I think it has standing water. Is that the place where you think it might be? A vernal pool? Think so, right?
Potential vernal pool.
Yeah, but it hasn't
That
been,
was-
it's not been certified.
Mhm.
So in the later on in the year, it would likely be dry,
Mhm.
which is a good thing. And then the other place along, where this upper piece here,
Mhm.
that's mostly, it's along a field edge. So it's mostly kind of a wet meadow rather than a pool or stream or anything.
Do other people have questions they want to ask right now?
Yep. You said talked about mechanical. Sorry, that I interrupted you.
No.
You talked about mechanical methods. What other mechanical methods?
We have weed wrenches and honeysuckle poppers, which is another thing that goes under the root and gets something out. Machetes,
Okay,
brush
but they're not.
saws.
It's not actual like machine tired.
No.
No equipment you're bringing down there to...
No, not in this context. It's not really needed.
Okay. I'm all set.
How do you dispose of the vegetative matter?
That we need to, whatever
we-
we decide.
We talked about chipping some of it, but we decided not to spend our money on that. We just leave it there.
So we'll
And-
just desiccate and...
Yep, forms a nice brush pile.
If the landowner agrees, we just would
Mhm.
pile it somewhat out of sight. We can cut it up a little bit so it decomposes faster. But it would be, in the case of this place here, it would be away from this depression. We're not gonna throw it in the depression.
Please don't.
And it depending on the time of year too, especially the bittersweet, we might wanna take it away, 'cause it's gonna have berries on it.
Uh-huh,
If we do it earlier in the season,
Yeah, if we do it
we
earlier.
wouldn't have to do that.
yep.
So the timing is still to be determined?
We're hoping to work in June,
Okay.
which would be better for things not having fruits on them.
And then you mentioned a long-term management component. So you're going to do this initial clearing, removal of invasives, and then what is the long-term management piece?
We
What's
do
the
2
monitoring?
years of follow-up after the initial, and then treatments would be 2016, 2017, and then we are committed to working with the Lathrop Land Management Committee to provide training if they would like in other ways beyond them, what they're doing now, so that they can train their volunteers in the future to do that. And Barbara and Sharon and Lynn and Roger are not to be trifled with when it comes to follow through. They're very committed, they're very dedicated, so it's not like a context where we'd be worried about finding volunteers to do that
Yeah.
kind of management work. And if they need us to come back to do stewardship level touching up of things that are not looking too good, we can work that out with them. But mostly it's going to be in their hands.
Yep.
They're capable hands.
And that's what Roger was talking about when he said he's already volunteered to be a steward, and so have several others. And we've had some experience in this because we've had volunteer work days for our residents where we take them out into the upland areas, and if they don't know what an invasive honeysuckle or an invasive multiflora rose looks like, we show them how to identify it. We did a garlic mustard pull recently, and so people learn how to identify these plants, and then they go after them. With the volunteers, we use only hand methods and only in uplands, but so people learn. If you can teach people to learn, if you can teach people to identify the 10 most dangerous invasives, they can do some monitoring of the land. And so Roger has this field and Sharon has this meadow, and do it like that.
Okay.
Does anyone else want to do a site visit to see these areas? Anyone else? Does anyone want to do a site visit? You kind of do? Kind of don't. Which? Do. Yeah.
I think we should. I think we should. I know why we
So,
should.
All right, so how's everyone for next Monday? Or
Sure.
is-
It's
no,
fine.
Okay, so what time?
6,
Okay.
5:30? Can we do 5:30? Let's do 6 and 9.
Okay, we would like to do a site visit to see this in person.
Okay.
And we'd like to do it on next Monday, the 15th, at 6 PM. Is there a good congregating location?
Mhm.
at-
100 Bassabrook Drive,
Wait.
which is the end.
Where, all the way at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not all the way in, but the end, the big building there.
100
Okay.
Bassett
Is there room for us to all park?
Yes.
Yeah, there's plenty of parking.
At 6 p.m.
Especially at 6 p.m.
As long as Bridge Club isn't there.
Yeah, they're not there at 6, so.
No.
All right, great. This
I have a
is,
random question that's
Oh.
not related. What is Lathrop community? Is it a retirement community? Is
Yes.
it-
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We have about 100 units on that campus, some in townhomes and some apartments in the inn.
All right. I had no idea we had a retirement community.
Huh?
Awesome.
No.
all right, so get a motion to continue this to June 22nd at 6 PM.
I'll make a motion to continue to June 22nd at 6 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor? Yes.
Aye.
So moved.
So
Okay.
what does continue to June 22nd mean?
Because we want to do a site visit, we will resume discussion we'll reopen the public hearing
Okay.
at our June 22nd meeting.
Okay.
And resolve whatever outstanding comments there are, if any, and see where it takes us from there.
All right. And someone will be in touch with us about what you might like to see when you come?
We'd like to see I'd like to see the two areas in our jurisdiction, basically, especially the wetlands. So the wetlands, the one along the trail that might be a vernal pool,
Mm-hmm.
and the wetland along the field edge, that wet meadow area.
Right. Anything that's within our jurisdiction, that's all we really.
Right.
And who's the best contact and contact number in case of any last minute changes?
It would be me.
Okay.
I think I'm going to be in town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Barbara Walvord, WALVOORD, at 413-203-5086.
Okay.
And let me give you also my cell phone, 574-361-3857.
Okay. Great. I doubt I'll need to use them, but just in case anything last minute comes up, I don't want anyone waiting around.
Okay. All right. All right. Very good.
Thank you all very much for
Thank you.
tonight. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
All right. Next on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability filed by Bell Atlantic Mobile of Massachusetts Corp., doing business as Verizon Wireless for 51 Brook Street, construction of a monopole wireless telecommunications facility, gravel access, and associated facility improvements. And good evening.
Good evening.
If you, at some point, could take a moment and sign in.
I did.
And, oh, you did? You both did?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Jess, can you pass the sign? Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hope you easily sign this thing.
We do need our easel. Sorry, thank you.
Oh, great, thank you.
It's on my shirt.
This like this? No. There was one for the electric company
That's why
that I went
it's
out
good to
to
go.
bring out the file something I gave them, but
For so many reasons.
Right. Your coworkers.
it's just for people. Favorite stuff.
I haven't seen it.
We had
It was
the copy
forwarded
that
as
she-
an email.
I didn't see that.
Thank you.
Or the attachment wasn't there.
Oh dear, okay.
Okay.
Well, we had the paper, we didn't have the drawing. We had the RDA we had.
Two attachments.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Well, for this project or the previous one?
Both.
Previous one.
The previous one he was asking about
Oh.
later.
Yeah.
But there was no drawing. Yeah, it wasn't,
Oh,
it
maybe,
wasn't
maybe that's the problem.
I think it was like the
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
When they came to
seeing this
January.
stuff.
No, it was
Yep.
more recent. We could revisit that
Yeah.
before. Hello.
Good evening.
Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dean Gustafson. I'm a senior wetland scientist with All Points Technology. I'm here tonight on behalf of Atlantic Mobile, Massachusetts, doing business as Verizon Wireless for a proposed wireless communications facility at 51 Brook Street. What Verizon is proposing at this property, which is a little over 19 acres, it's a residential lot in the northeast portion of the site, proposing a 100-foot monopole wireless communications facility. I'll just orient you. This is the end of Brook Street, where the paved section ends, and there's a gravel drive that leads out to soccer fields out back. So we're proposing an access drive between the residence and the barn, swinging around, picking up a section of Brook Street, and then deviating off of that. That's all 12-foot wide gravel access drive to a 50 by 50 fenced-in compound, gravel-based facility. All those house the monopole as well as a 12 by 24-foot prefab concrete shelter that'll house Verizon's wireless ground equipment. The resources that are located in proximity to the project on the subject property include bordering vegetative wetlands, highlighting in green here. There's bank, there's a small intermittent water course channel that bleeds out of that system that eventually drains down to Broad Brook. Highlighted in yellow is the 100-foot buffer zone, and this red line denotes is associated with the zoning requirement to show the top of slope in excess of 15%. We're approximately 136 feet away from the nearest point of the bordering vegetative wetlands, that wetland flag 1-11. And part of this BVW resource, this tail end, is impounded by kind of an earthen dam, shallow earthen dam. And in that pool area, there were some spotted salamander egg masses. So it's functioning somewhat as a vernal pool habitat as well. So the proposed work will be located outside of all the resource areas, including the buffer zone. And therefore, we're requesting a negative determination from the commission. There are no activities under the Wetland Protection Act regulations. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
So, so that slope there, that's an existing slope, and it's just steep down to the river right now, basically?
Yep, yeah, this is all forested, existing
Yeah.
forested habitat, fairly mature pine dominant forest, and also along this slope. Eventually, you can see Wemco has a transmission line that runs through here, so obviously underneath that, the clearance zone, that's all kind of grass or shrub habitat.
Mm-hmm. And what's the vegetation like now on the kind of the flat area on top? I'm just trying to orient myself with the.
Where the proposed facility is going?
Yeah.
It's a mature pine forest.
Oh, okay. I get you. All right.
Here's a picture that just, aerial shot that
Mm-hmm.
was part of their package.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So there really is no activity in the 100-foot buffer.
Nope.
Yep. That's amazing. Exactly.
Well, it's a nice level area.
Yeah.
We identified, I went on the design visit last year with the project team. So we actually picked out this location before we even knew we were approximate to those wetlands. But we definitely wanted to make sure we're far enough away from that steep slope edge so that, we wouldn't create any issues during construction as far as erosion down that slope. So,
Yep.
and it's fairly short access off kind of an existing gravel portion of Brook Street.
And where are your erosion control measures? Or are they shown on this map?
They're not shown on this map, but essentially all of the entire, would be the eastern side of the facility and access road. There will be erosion controls located along there.
Is that on a drawing that was part of this middle, or?
It's a good question. I'm not sure if it made it onto the set that was submitted, but we could certainly follow up for your records to clearly identify the E&S controls.
So the thing that we just need to be cognizant of is that if it's not in our jurisdiction, it's not in our jurisdiction.
So this is actually not a jurisdiction.
How we represent. You know, the only caveat to that is that, you know, even if something were to happen that affected that slope, that affected the wetland, then it would, after the fact, become our jurisdiction. It's only when something's
And
outside.
that would be an enforcement order at that point.
And then it would be. But they're going to include erosion sedimentation controls, I think, as general good housekeeping.
Mhm.
Yes.
guaranteed.
Oh, we
So-
definitely will.
So,
And typically when we're, Verizon Wireless is very sensitive to working in proximity to wetland resources. And certainly there's a little heightened sensitivity because this one for some vernal pool habitat, breeding habitat. I've worked for Verizon Wireless for over 16 years and have, you know, done everything from identifying wetland resources to protection during construction. And typically if we're located this close to wetlands, we'll, just as a third-party review, we'll do a review of the erosion controls before construction begins, just to make sure everything's installed properly. And particularly because we're close to a fairly steep slope, that way we can avoid any potential regulatory issues after the fact. So that's going to be my recommendation to the development team as we proceed in that manner on this site as well. Just to make sure, I mean, they have pre-selected contractors for Verizon, and I've worked with all of them. They're all very, very good, but even good contractors sometimes, you know, make a mistake here and there. So.
Yep.
okay. Any other questions?
Good enough info questions.
With that, would anyone, I don't have the paperwork with me tonight, but we will have it signed by our next meeting. Would anyone care to make a motion?
Is it anyone in the audience for this particular project?
Are there any public comments?
All right.
I don't know, what's the access to it? Off Brook Street, which, is it at the far end? or-
Yeah, the access, you know, the commission's okay, I'm just going to
Please.
turn this around, make it easier. This is the end of Brook Street.
Yeah.
So this is the end of where the pavement ends, and then it goes into the woods, and there's a gravel surface
Yeah.
access, and the soccer fields are back here. So we're gonna be coming off the end of there, essentially through the driveway to 51 Brook Street, pass between the house and barn, build a new access road, jump on to Brook Street, the gravel section of Brook Street, and then peel off to get access to the facility location.
John, this also will go before the planning board as well.
Huh?
This also is going before the planning board as well, this
Oh.
application. It's already been
Okay.
to the ZBA, it's now before the Conservation Commission, it's also coming to the planning board. So, just so you know, there'll be more about the site plan aspect of it,
Yeah,
because the access isn't necessarily their jurisdiction,
so that's not anywhere near the athletic fields or anything like that.
The athletic, this is their
Yeah.
northern parcel boundary. The athletic fields start maybe 100 feet north of that corner. But you're getting close to the forest edge, you know, essentially the wood line is probably right to draw it in, it would be somewhere up in here.
Jess, when is this on the planning board agenda?
it'll be on the 23rd.
That's the day after our next meeting.
Not tomorrow's meeting, but 2 weeks from there, so I think that's the 23rd.
So,
So it's not really gonna be any disruptive to anything, right?
I don't know, I'll find out during the planning board
Yeah,
hearing
right.
process.
with that, would anyone care to make
I'll move to issue a negative determination of applicability that the work is not in an area subject to our jurisdiction.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you, folks.
Sure, thank you.
And we will mail I'm assuming the original copy to
If you can send it,
Verizon.
if you could send it to me directly,
Yeah, 1 second.
I'll give you,
Your
Do
information
you have a
is...
card? Or is it on the app?
it's on the app, but I'll give you a business
It's on
card
the
as well.
application, but if you want to do that too, that's fine.
Yeah. Do we need one of these for our file?
Yes.
Yeah, if you send it to Diana East River Drive in East Hartford, it'll probably go into a circular file.
Got
So I'll
it?
make sure it gets to the sort of project team and the construction manager.
Okay.
Okay, so... Should I put that in the minutes here? Or do you just do that?
No, just leave a placeholder.
Actually, I'm gonna give you a different address to send it to.
Glad you didn't start typing.
Alright. This laptop is driving me insane tonight. Insane, is that what you're doing?
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much, Dean.
Thanks for the use of your easel.
Our pleasure.
That would be what it's there for.
Easel, shiny and new.
Low blood sugar.
I'm getting really low blood. No, thanks. It does.
Are you okay to continue?
Nope.
Have a great night, folks.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, request for certificate of compliance. First one filed by James LeGrand for 19 River Street, septic system upgrade, EP file number 151281. Hello, Mr. LeGrand.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So I took some pictures yesterday. And just the back 3 pages just to show how the grass is coming in.
Not too bad, considering the season.
My wife has been there sprinkling it quite regularly. So,
Please thank her.
so that's the field side. And
The
then
level part.
this is in front of the house.
Great.
And then this is where the
Oh,
old
great.
system was down there. So that one actually came in the best because it was in the shade.
Shaded,
So,
yep,
yeah.
excellent. All right.
You guys want to see that one?
I was down there and everything was fine, so.
Jay has been our eyes.
Take the dog down there.
Hello.
And all versions of the control measures are
You're all
removed
removed at
at
this
this
point,
point.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 55-gallon drum in the ground. 2 of them.
Two of them.
Well, but the pipe between them was plugged, so in effect it was actually only one.
Single.
Yeah, so,
That's awesome.
I'm sure that was the height of technology.
I mean, we can flush the toilet now, and we can actually take a shower, and it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Your pegs and everything.
Global water thing.
Yeah.
No,
Cool.
no more, resin. Okay.
The fascinating modern nature would have Right.
All right,
Who
any,
wants this?
any questions, comments?
No questions.
All right, would anyone care to make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance?
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 19 River Street.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. We'll have your paperwork for you signed and send it out to you after our next meeting.
sure. And then do I take that to the registry
Then
and
you,
register
right,
it again? Okay.
exactly, and then that basically cancels out the order and
Great.
the title's all clear.
Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. You signed in, right? Is that sign sheet?
The sheet's here, do you want it?
Yeah.
Oh,
love
yeah,
that.
we could pass that back up. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wasn't Master and Commander Cord, I guess when we got it. Wasn't Master and Commander Cord, I guess when we got it.
So sorry.
I read all like 20 whatever books at one point.
I'm certainly not surprised.
What's that?
All right. Okay. Ready, I'm ready.
Okay, next on the agenda is a request for certificate of compliance. Piscoma Conservation Trust, Procured Brook Conservation Area Culvert Replacement, DEP file number 151280. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
It's
Come
us,
on.
finally.
Come on up. Hey, we've been moving right along.
No, that's all right.
If you could just introduce yourself for the record.
Okay.
And then start talking.
How fast? My name is Bill Cannon, I'm a landscape architect. I'm filling in for Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys, who I've been kind of working in tandem on this project. Sitting with me is the president of Piscoma Conservation Trust, John Bader. Always loves to be in attendance for moral support, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the project.
So what I'm going to try to do tonight is just kind of follow up on the request for the certificate of compliance. I understand Mark Reed has filed it. I have a copy of it here. It's been submitted to the Conservation Commission. He has basically certified that all the work has been done in compliance with the plans, and I believe he's submitted photographs of it. I mean, he's done inspections, weekly inspections all along.
You have been very on top of those.
He's been very diligent and everything else. I talked him into giving us a little bit of a break during the winter time, however, since there wasn't any activity going on. And we picked it up in the spring to finish it. And we were just kind of on it to kind of finish it up and everything else. Based on what I've seen out there, and I've been out on a number of occasions to kind of hold the contractor's hand to get it implemented the way that I kind of envision it, and working with the trust to kind of make it work out there as well. Sometimes the plans are subject to a little bit of tweaking or understanding everything else. So we modified a couple of things. They're represented on the as-built plan that was submitted, which is which was requested by the order of conditions based on my observations and everything else. So that was followed up with the request for the certificate of compliance as well. So I guess we're looking for that certificate of compliance because our motive is that we would like to submit a notice of intent for kind of like the phase 2, if you will, of the project. Way back when we kind of made a presentation about this whole vision for the property that kind of extended from East Green Street, where this access is, all the way over to East Street. And on East Street, what we want to do is create some accessibility, a little bit of parking, accessibility, handicap accessibility, and we want to create a trail from that parking area through the open fields. Some of that would kind of connect up with this access point and, be a good thing for the whole area, the residential area out there.
And there's another culvert to work on that.
Yeah, we can get into the notice of intent if you want, but I don't,
Not tonight.
No, I didn't think so. I've got the notice of intent here. It's been submitted to you via electronic, but, so it was just the one copy here.
Okay.
But I think you got,
When was the notice of intent submitted?
What was it? Email.
I believe Friday.
I'll go back into email and double
I
check.
looked at it for today. All right, okay.
All right, well,
I believe I may have been CC'd, so let me look in my email. You guys are definitely having some email issues.
We're full.
Uh-oh.
Right, so we need
Full.
to talk to the IT person about moving some of that stuff off somehow because constituents are having a hard time contacting.
I didn't even
through
realize we were
email.
full, so when I went on there about a week ago, I deleted a ton of stuff.
You
from
did?
over a year
Okay.
ago,
I
so
haven't
now
heard
it's down
any-
to like 75% now.
Okay, well, that's good.
Full, so we have some buffer.
Okay, well, that's good. All right.
But I don't know, I don't recall seeing that.
And that
document.
was before.
That was, yeah,
would've
like
been
mid last week.
How many stores is that total?
Not enough.
We
Like,
only
would
have,
one project put it over?
No.
If it's like 20 or...
Well, yeah.
Theory,
one more
could.
project would put it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. In theory,
Yeah.
if the file size is big enough, yeah, it would. Obviously. If the pictures were too large.
Okay.
So back to topic at hand.
Right. Right.
Commission did a site visit.
June 1st.
June 1st, thank you. And there was one area of concern. And you have a photo of it right
This is a
there?
photo.
It's basically a nearly vertical soil face.
Okay.
And we're
Yeah.
just,
This wall here that
Yeah.
looks like,
Right.
we're concerned on what's gonna grow on that and if it's gonna.
Right in that
Yeah,
spot.
right in that
Right.
area.
Yeah. Yeah, it's steep and bare right now, so it seems like, it could have some erosion potential there just with stream flows and flow coming off the top of the slope and such. So,
I guess, what's the plan for that face? How is that, how do you envision that becoming
Stable.
revegetated, otherwise stable? Because it looks like just soil right now.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Bill and I talked about that, 'cause I had a concern about that too.
Okay. What'd you come up with?
Nothing solid, but I did suggest a couple things. I mean, one way would be something's gotta go in there, to fill it in. And it's pretty hard to put some kind of a soil base back there right now. You might want to, the only thing I could come up with was like bales of hay with wooden stakes on top. And then throw some soil on top of that, and eventually, or you can throw some kind of seed on top of that, or something that will take, and eventually fill it in. Otherwise, you'd have to go through the whole construction process and there is some soil.
It's hard angle to see it, but
I mean, that'd be a lot like using core logs or whatever to...
Right. What about tubulings? Some sort of, are you familiar with that? Instead of like a dormant live stake, an actual, because it's not the right time of year for that, like a tubuling or something that gets literally plugged in.
right, plug, yeah. Yeah.
That would perhaps jumpstart it.
Well, I think, just to give you a little bit of history, John and I, when we looked at the area, and he voiced his concern about it, what I wanted to do was to get back to the commission first before we went and did anything that would have been foreign and objectionable to you. And rather just kind of talk to you about what we could kind of do. I think and I didn't want to get the contractor, quite frankly, involved in doing something in it, because I think they would make more of a mess than it was worth, and also I wanted to kind of keep the expense down on it too. But I would like to see, even I would be willing to get down there. There's a lot of ferns and plant material that is already in established communities down there. Is to take sporadic samples of it and hand place them in the embankment and vegetate it that way. We would then, I think John had a good idea about putting up some stakes against the embankment and putting some hay in there just to protect the seedlings from falling out and everything else. But to do it on a very low profile basis with doing some transplanting of existing material in the area. I was personally fairly encouraged because when we did the cut there, there were a lot, and I took a close look at, there were a lot of roots that were still kind of coming out of the bank and everything else, so it's a matter of time before that starts, with the daylight, it starts to kind of sprout a little bit and everything else. There were already skunk cabbage, and there were already ferns that were starting to sprout all around the area, so I guess that's the way I would approach it. if that's all right with the commission. And, you know, that's something that John and I can kind of, you know, we can take on as a little hands-on task, so to speak,
What would be
to
your
finish it up.
timeframe for that?
Well, we do it as soon as possible,
Okay.
so we can get, you know, we can get the growth started and everything else. I don't know, I'm hoping that maybe, you know, we do that, and I don't know how that works with the certificate of compliance though, because I'm a little nervous that time is flying by for the second phase here and everything else, so I'm just
Well,
gonna put that in your lap for.
This geographic footprint of work, the second phase's geographic footprint of work has nothing to do with this area, correct? Even though it's the same
No,
parcel, they're
no,
completely...
not-
It does not, right, but as I understand it,
from
you
a
can't,
Policy perspective, no, as long as the geographic footprints don't overlap. It can be the same parcel.
oh, really?
Yep, you just can't, you know, you can't propose...
Oh, so Mark led me
being
a
very
little
conservative.
bit,
He was being very conservative.
I guess so. I
That's
see,
okay.
okay, great.
But is this going to be access, an access location for this next second phase? Will you be using this as access?
It will be used as access to build the trail part that kind of comes on to that open field. I'm sure they'll want to use it a little bit there, because the parking area that's being built on East Street has a trail that kind of extends off of it, but then it crosses an existing culvert, stream crossing,
Yeah, that has to.
and which is not wide enough for some vehicles that would need to get in there to actually build the accessible trail.
Yeah.
So I don't want to disturb that culvert crossing any more than I have to.
So, but other than driving over this, there would be no
No work is being-
here.
Oh, no,
so-
right, correct,
I
right,
think
yeah.
we would be, they'd still be okay, and I think, so if you're okay with it and the commission's okay with it, I'd like to continue our review of the certificate of compliance to the June 22nd meeting, which would give these guys a chance to implement supplemental measures along that slope, and not sudden. Then we'll revisit it, and if you could just let us know when you finish that, so that we or someone can pop out there before the next meeting and see what has happened.
Yeah, we'll send you some.
Which is only 2 weeks away. I realize that's not much time, but
Yeah.
in the,
Well, it'll be a
in the
nice
spirit
morning
of-
off for me, from the office. If John can't do it,
Little fresh air.
we'll
And I
work
guess
on it.
My only caveat is I'm fine with transplanting from the adjacent area, but just not to take more than one plant from any particular 5-foot radius, so that we're not clearing a spot.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
just
no, it wouldn't-
obviously,
Spread it out, yeah.
yeah.
No, the whole idea is that we would take plants sporadically or thinly throughout the whole community, so it doesn't, yeah, so we don't have any holes, bare spots. We don't want
Right.
to.
I mean, it's clearly very densely vegetated.
Yes.
Where
Right.
disturbances didn't occur, so
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not really concerned about the vegetative community out there. I'm just would rather say it than not say it.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate, you know, the
But
opportunity.
Other than this little area, the project came out great. You know, looks nice. Did a good job.
Yeah, we had, a couple of issues towards the end, we had to extend the fence, the borders, between the two borders. And then we had the drainage, make sure drainage was coming in properly from the street.
Mhm.
And so it was washing out in some spots.
Which was a problem for years, right?
Yeah, yeah. But it was washing out on the left-hand side there, so what they did was, they put gravel in there, right? And then an extra piece of,
Paving.
put the extra piece of pavement down
Pavement there to direct it
Yeah.
towards
Leading
the
into the main
traffic.
trough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we much to John's, concerned, we went ahead and did some work on town property to kind of mitigate something that had been that was, the runoff from the cul-de-sac was kind of affecting everything else.
Yeah.
So we not only repaired our culvert for the accessibility to Meadow Field, but we've addressed some of the drainage runoff from the cul-de-sac area too. I think that's plus kudos to the
Absolutely.
trust for their effort and expense to do that, certainly.
Yeah, agreed. It's great. So is that a motion to continue it?
I have a question about
Okay.
your proposal for what to do about that steep
Yeah.
embankment. I guess I'm just concerned that disturbing that steep slope more is gonna increase erosion.
Well, the only thing that I wouldn't characterize what we're going to do as disturb it so much as that we're going to put plants in it. Kind of hard to describe, but dig in little pockets and plug in some plants. And just
You could angle it away from, so if this is the face, if you angle it in.
yes, yeah,
that
we'll
would
have
reduce the erosion,
right.
likelihood, and then
Yeah.
the fact that.
And if we put some stakes up against the slope and put some hay on it and everything else, so we're taking some safeguards in there to kind of keep it stable a little bit, and that would buffer a little bit of some washing that may occur at the base for the stream. Stream is, you saw the stream, it's just kind of nice and quietly just kind of flowing along, and instead of just kind of going down one now, it goes through both.
Right.
And still, it only stays about this deep or so.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's great. So there's no seeding, and I heard at one point possible seeding the slope to fit it in the hay. Is that not?
Well,
Proposed.
I would strongly suggest with John that, we try to take either some bare root material or some live plants and transplant in there and everything
rather
else.
than hay, that's
Yeah,
good.
the seeding isn't gonna, I don't know how that's gonna kind of,
Well, am I talking about grass?
stabilize, be stabilized on that bank. So I think the better thing to do is to do some transplanting from some indigenous material from the area.
Well, we'll have to take a look at that closer because it might not be possible to do it that way. If you got as I recall it, that's sort of an odd shaped, steep dugout. And if you're trying to put plugs of stuff right in that stuff, you're right in that embankment per se. How are you gonna hold it?
If you angle it down. So here's the slope. I can't do this. And you angle, instead of going straight back,
yeah,
you have it
I know,
angled.
but
Theoretically.
you got nothing, not much of a base to put in there. It's gravel.
John, we're trying to talk to the commission that we can do this.
Yeah, I know, but
You don't try to talk us out of it.
I kind of like your hay bale idea,
Huh?
because your hay bale idea, because that would,
Some kind.
that would
If you put,
Stabilize it
a hay bale
temporarily.
or a surplus, just loose hay, pack it in, then put some soil, heavy, porous soil on top of that, sprinkle it, and then you can put your plugs in there.
Okay.
yeah.
I don't like the idea of putting it right in, directly into that. I've been in the landscaping business for 50 years just about. I put in some pretty wicked projects and I made marsh gardens and everything else. And that's how I do it.
Okay. Well, if
But,
that's the
we can
approach you're
talk it over.
comfortable with.
We can talk it over, I'll talk it over more,
Okay.
and maybe get even the landscape company in there, and they can throw in some ideas and come up with a plan. But
So I guess the caveats are it should be handwork.
well, yeah. Yeah.
Plant stock should be selected from the site. Again, not to, we mentioned this, but from a variety of areas, not one feeder plot.
Yeah,
and then
another
just-
idea is that, one of our members, Garrett Stover, did have some extra plants from his garden that he ordered, and he couldn't fit in. And some were sedges, and some were asters, so stuff like that would work.
If they're native and they're appropriate for the site,
Yeah, yeah.
I would ask first that you let us know.
Yeah,
if you're not using plant material from the site,
Yeah,
what it is.
I would have to check it out and see what we can really grab from that site, you know?
Lots of poison ivy.
Yeah.
That would hold it.
Yeah.
Lots of nice little roots.
But, you know, ashes are native, so
So,
fit right in there. And they do well in the shade or sun.
looks like the jewel weed's already coming in.
Yeah.
So,
But, you know, ferns will work too. I mean, once they grab, they don't, can't get rid of them.
great.
Yeah.
I well know in my own.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you have a few things that you're going to tweak, and we'll plan on continuing the discussion on June 22nd. And if there's something for us to see between now and then, let us know, and we'll either come out, some combination of folks would come out there, or
Mhm.
look at whatever you have to send in, or, but,
Okay. See what we can do.
right? And it sounds like we have a notice of intent for the next agenda.
Sounds like it.
So
So
maybe
I can
we'll
leave you with the copy here,
sure, thank
hard
you.
copy.
Before we move on, did we in motion?
So would
I'll
someone
make a
move-
motion that we continue the hearing till the 22nd.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So moved. Thank you.
Mhm.
And here you are.
Thank you. All right, so hopefully we have this, if we don't, for whatever reason, have this as a PDF, oh, Jess, here's a check.
Yeah, all the checks are there.
Mhm.
So what's the name of this? And I know why, for what?
For Accessibility Trail, Mutterfield.
Butterfield, call it Butterfield.
Okay.
How are those fingers?
It's my
Computer.
giant, I don't know, palm hitting this stupid pad.
Is that a different laptop than you usually have?
No, I don't know what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
I think I've dropped it too many
I
times.
jinxed it on you.
I know, right?
Right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moving on, no emergency certs. On May 18th, I don't have it here on my screen. Dan, Jay, and I did a compliance site visit.
What date? May 18th?
May 18th, right before the last meeting. Compliance site visit, Bernie Gall's property, 37 South Street for enforcement order EO-2013-001. In general, everything looks the way they said it would look in the approved mitigation plan. That said, in area 3A, which is kind of the wooded, or the area that had been all burning bushes in Riverfront that Mr. Gall removed and then planted a variety of native saplings, we noted the presence of several non-native invasive species, including Japanese knotweed, black locust, and garlic mustard. And
Sounds good.
actually it was culinary herb,
Delicious.
so you can harvest as much as you like.
Can you say all those three things again?
Japanese knotweed, which is also edible.
Really?
Yeah, go for
When
it.
it's little.
Not enough.
Okay, that's
Not
good.
like
Edible
so-
enough.
so-
We-
Give about 5 minutes to
Yeah.
pick it before it gets too big.
Garlic mustard.
And black locust.
Is that edible?
That doesn't sound good at all.
It's a thorny tree.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Sounds like a bug.
Doesn't sound like a bug.
Oh.
Okay.
So, indicated to Mr. Gall that these, part of the mitigation and monitoring was keeping the invasive species out. He did not recall that particular provision. So I have drafted a letter reiterating the approved plan of action, item 10, to monitor area 3A and 3B for a period of 2 years with a report sent to the Conservation Commission no later than October 1, 2014 and October 1, 2015. Monitoring shall include manual removal of invasive species and date stamp photo documentation of plantings. So if anyone would care to take a look at the letter that I intend to send to Mr. Gall tomorrow, and if there are any recommendations, but basically, this is the plan this is part of the plan that his consultant came up with. This is part
Yeah,
of.
it was in his plan, so.
It was his
yeah,
plan.
Right.
And so.
So the removal of invasive species and the planting of native.
No, just
remove
he's
the
already
native
planted the
species.
native stuff. It's doing all right.
Okay.
But native species are encroaching because the whole area had been vegetated with giant burning bushes, and they all got yanked out, and now there's a lot more daylight and room for stuff to encroach.
Was there supposed to be some sort of, there were native plants that he was
He put
supposed
in
to
native
plant?
sapling, yeah. So it's just like
Interesting.
the open areas. Okay, so we have a letter to send to Bernie Gall.
Was his initial plan just to remove the unanimous, or was it all invasive species? Like, was he just gonna remove the burning bush, or?
Well, it was that they had to come out in order to make room for the native species that we said had to go in, because basically a certain area of riverfront got cleared when he built this secondary structure, garage, building, storage unit, whatever, a portion of which, including the driveway and the area adjacent to the driveway, are in the riverfront area of Wilton Brook. And so this is what the commission at the time deemed appropriate mitigation for something that, because of numbers, would have been permissible as a riverfront area activity. So.
Bernie Gall was in attendance at the site visit?
Yes.
Yes, he was.
And we saw a beaver.
In fact, that will segue into any correspondence we got from Jim Gracia, the city engineer. Apparently, the South Street beavers have returned, and the city.
Who would have thought?
It's probably that
We
same
actually
guy.
saw
South
that
Street
beaver was
beavers.
not afraid
That
of
sounds
us
like a
at all.
biker gang.
Doesn't it sound like a
He didn't even slap the water. He just stared at us.
Yeah.
So, segue into that quick mention of it, Commission received an email from Jim Gratian saying that the funding isn't in place yet, but the city is going to move forward with permitting for a beaver deceiver device on the culvert at South Street. And I let him know that, and I don't know if the email went through or not. Jess, did you receive that response?
Did.
Okay. So I replied from the commission's email, basically saying, great, here's our schedule. Whatever you can do. It's great.
To the meeting.
So he'll be filing something to do that. So we'll send this letter and see what happens.
Is it an NOI that allowed to happen with that?
I think given the nature, it could be an RDA. I think it's a pretty non-disruptive process to install.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like it's not going to be a water level device. I think it's really going to be just like the wire protection that extends out from the inlet to the culvert to keep beavers from blocking it up with debris. And it makes it easier to clean it. So we'll see what they submit. Okay, updates. Ready? Mount Tom Estates, no updates. Hall Street Extension, Jillian Estates, no response.
You talked to him?
We talked to Mark Reed. I talked to Mark Reed. Did I talk to Mark Reed?
We talked about talking to Mark Reed. I can tell you there's one car that drives way too fast that lives down there, and that's all anybody in the neighborhood talks about whenever two of them get together. It's pretty amazing. Anyways,
Okay,
to
so
what we're talking about.
That was awesome.
that's not our jurisdiction
I
unless
know.
they want to put a speed bump in, buffer zone. Okay.
Is this about that shed still, or?
No, this
That
is.
died.
Some construction was starting and we didn't know.
We, at the beginning of the last meeting, that's what it was. David Garsko was
You
here.
signed off a
I
couple
signed off on
things for
2
him.
building permits. And so we have not received any indication via weekly reports that has kicked off. So
Yeah, there's no sign of anything new happening other than like that weird hole that's been there for a month or two.
okay.
What about that carryover from months ago about that deck or whatever?
Still never
the shed or
received
whatever?
anything.
Okay.
I probably gave up on that.
Alright.
Or
So, no update.
No update.
Thank you.
Pleasant Street Mills. I went out there before tonight's meeting, and the erosion and sedimentation control barriers have been installed. There is one point properly installed. There's one point along the bike path closer to the southerly end, closer to proposed detention basin number 1, where there's the silt fence. There's a tear in the silt fence. It's like 6 to 8 inches long, and they'll have to somehow
Sew it back up.
patch that with duct tape or something, just so that it doesn't continue to tear down to the ground surface. But that's the only flaw that I observed.
This is all that clearing on the other side of the bike path from
On the pond
mills.
side, yes.
On the pond side.
Yeah, they've also done extensive clearing on the mill side.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's within the, well, that was part of the plan. So that's moving forward, so we'll start receiving weekly reports.
Is it true that they're closing off the bike path?
It was
closed last week.
It was open when I went out there, but
They had it closed in a different section next week, so you can get around it now.
Yes.
Bike path.
Is the bike path ever really closed, even when it's supposed to be closed?
We are working with the contractor. The bike path will be closed at times because it is an active construction zone and it's very dangerous. We encourage people not to climb over fences, go around fences.
Move the fences.
Move the
Bike around
fences, stomp the
fences.
fences down, to enter a construction zone because they are taking their life into their hands. So we are,
actually that bad trench patch,
That's more
taking
dangerous.
life into your hands too.
so the contractors have detour signs and construction signage that's being printed right now and should hopefully be up this week. The plan is to devise a system so that it's gated, so that when it's safe to use the bike path, the gates will be open and then people can use the bike path, and when it's not, it will be closed down. He is hoping that he'll be able to open it every weekend, so that will happen, but there may be times where the path is going to be closed. So,
Jake, you take a detour through your new.
No, I had to go down Pleasant Street and all around.
Glendale, Loudville, West Pomeroy Meadow, no updates.
Well, they removed the
They did.
silt fence, but you were going to ask Jim or someone about the standing water in that.
Yeah, I never.
But they did remove everything, so they're trying to close it out.
Okay.
Bill Gare and College Embrace about what? Standing water?
There was, after a month of no rain, there was standing water in one of the stormwater features.
You're getting tired of standing. You're standing all the time.
Stagnant.
I kind of love you. That was awesome.
Who's driving this?
I don't have air conditioning, so.
This would be nice. Okay, Nashwanik Mills, never got follow-up correspondence.
Nothing's done to it, it's still about the same. People are driving over it, a little hole, a little.
Is there any active construction, and is that even on their property?
I don't
they
know.
have a CO, so I'm not sure what active construction would still be going on.
Okay. So maybe it's following up saying certificate of compliance.
Did they finish the walkway from the road to the building? That was the thing that they were waiting
The like
for.
Sidewalk.
No, there's like a bridge.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's another issue, and that's not part of your jurisdiction.
Is it
Does
within the
that-
100-foot buffer zone of the channelized stream?
I would think so.
Is it?
Yes,
Is
it
it?
is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that, it's currently on hold for right now. They need to get an easement from the city to drop the bridge within the city's right of way. So
Okay.
there's legal
Gotcha.
stuff that has to happen with city council, and that's gonna take some time.
Yep, so that's probably the last piece.
They did put an erosion control grass mat, whatever it's called.
Road controlled blanket?
Yep. On that slope next to the parking lot.
Okay. Great, that's encouraging. Okay, Nashwanik Pond Promenade Park
Looks
is
awesome.
open.
So we will file a certificate of compliance once the grass starts coming in and growing, but I'm gonna wait for a little while until those two sections.
Yeah,
start
where it's
coming
just
in.
bare erosion control blanket.
Right, so I'm gonna wait a little while till that comes in, and then we'll file.
Mhm. Great. No updates on the Oxbow. Town Beach,
There's a small excavator there and a skid of erosion protection, so they're probably getting ready to go.
It sounds, I was gonna say Terry thinks he'll be on site on Wednesday
Okay.
and putting that in, so we'll have erosion controls to
no
inspect.
I should probably notify the mayor so that I'm sure we'll get calls on it, so he said he's gonna start working on Wednesday, you said?
That's when he
Okay.
indicated, yep. And we need to make sure the file number sign is posted.
Didn't see it, but I wasn't looking for it.
Right. So, okay. General business. Draft local wetlands protection ordinance. Does anyone have the energy for that tonight?
No.
Okay. Manhan Rail Trail, draft O&M plan. I still need to talk to Barb, which is just a pain in my bum.
So,
Continued.
This is the section we should call it confession.
True confession.
That's exactly what she said. Borchowski Conservation Property, no action, no.
Where is that at?
I scanned in that plan.
You scanned in that plan and
You need to send
I
it to
need
the
to send it
state.
to Natural Heritage. Okay. Echodale West Orchard. No, don't start yawning. This is the exciting part. So.
sorry, can we just go back a second?
No.
Where are you sending the scan plan to again?
Natural Heritage.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Ecuador West Orchard. So Colleen and I met out there yesterday morning and got started on the wetland delineation. There are wetlands out there. And there are more to be delineated. And it's not,
And they fall in a line, generally.
so I don't have a sketch, but you have I still feel like I'm crawling in ticks even though I have one on me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'll go walk it, and then
You were like, oh, this is not it. Okay. So kind of an open area, there's, everybody gathered. So, there's like a pool, a small open pool, that's kind of the head of a reach of wetlands that connects down to the wetlands behind. No, it goes this way. It goes right here. Sorry, I was beyond. But there's also something that sweeps around and might up along this top edge of this open area, where there's some pretty big there were hydroxoils and silky dogwoods, as well as elderberry. So we, took that as far as I think we need to. And then we started doing the leading at the south edge of this, but ran out of time. So we need to kind of get both sides of this and take it back. And there's a pretty extensive scrub shrub wetland like this edge over here, basically, that we need to define in order to figure this part out.
And that part is the orchard area and.
And that's
black right there.
within the orchard area. Like this is the orchard area.
So,
whole
so it's
upper
like
area.
balloon shaped thing?
Oh, that
That's
was
the
my
trail.
loose trail.
Oh, wow. Oh.
And it's,
So the wetland that was delineated when we did the RA
was
for
over
this,
here.
that's in the field.
Yeah.
And then there's another one, sounds
So
like
basically
this
this is-
parallels
this is-
it behind it.
it's like two arms that probably join up.
It's like there's a steep in here or something.
Yeah, it's, yeah,
Wow, that's
exactly.
really wet.
Yeah,
What about the trail that runs, because this is the
that's Park Hill.
Park Hill Orchard, there's a little access point with a sign
Yep,
that they mow, is that on their side of the property line?
it's probably right on the property line.
So then maybe we don't need another,
So maybe we need, so we need to go back out there, we need someone who can GPS the wetland boundaries and maybe walk the conceptual trail lead with Jessica. And then we need to put it on an aerial photo and reevaluate where we are with things.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and we might want to think beyond just the boundary of this parcel and look at it as a network of trails. And so I think,
there's trails back
yeah,
There's
so
trails
I
back
think
there.
what we should,
Whose trails though?
Yeah.
I don't,
Like whose land is it?
it could be private, but there's no reason not to commit to it if they're allowing public access on there.
But yeah, we have to find out if they're
Right.
allowing public
Right.
access. I don't want to encourage.
No,
trespassing.
right.
Is this the town farm proper parcel property right there?
Could be.
Could be,
Is that town farm still owned by
yes,
the town?
yes, it is.
Is
It
that
has an
APR? That's
APR.
APR, right?
That's the
Yeah.
town lodging house.
Yeah.
So the building has an historic preservation restriction, an affordable housing restriction, and the land's in APR.
So there's, these both of these sides are that, and
Yep.
then this is that blue thing. Nope, right,
Public land unprotected.
yeah,
Keep going.
This is it here.
Keep
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
that, up there, that blue.
yeah, that one.
Yep.
This is
What-
what now, public
what
land
parcel
It
is that?
says it's
unprotected?
public land unprotected,
that
so
is.
somebody owns, some governmental agency owns it, it might be state, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at the,
Oh yeah, so
But
this
so
is
it-
all, so the
So-
trails I'm thinking of are all in here,
Yeah.
so.
So we could-
and there's, I mean, Lathrop didn't talk about it today, but they are
Oh, right.
here.
They
In
bordered
this
that,
whole
yeah.
section, they were permitted to have open space as part of their development. Now, the configuration of their open space is questionable in terms of its usefulness as open space. So we've been trying to have some offline discussions with them about thinking about that, but if they're gonna do trails up here, there, you know, there's a possibility for a whole network. So it would be nice to sort of take a bigger perspective of how this trail is designed into a bigger network in that area. That's all.
How does Echodale West connect with, is there Echodale East?
There's Echodale East and Echodale West.
Right.
Yeah,
so where's-
Nicodale East has an easement all around it.
Right.
It's this one, right?
And then that gap in between is
It's
the.
West Street. I think it's.
That
No,
one.
Echodale
Yeah.
East goes down to West Street.
Yeah,
It
this
follows
is-
Oh, it
the
does?
stream.
This
It's
is it.
totally
Right.
inaccessible
And there's
to West Street.
the deed shows a trail
It's
along
Bassett
the
Road.
boundary on the edge of it, which
Yeah.
is just random.
So the actual Echodale farm is not,
It's not part of the.
That's an APR.
Is that-
right here? Hold on, excuse
No,
me,
well,
sorry.
what about the?
Yeah, pending, it says pending APR.
it's that far away.
No, what about, I think you're thinking of Rodney's farm with the long
Yeah, with the
cattle
cows and the woolly
the
sheep.
and the
And
big
barn
farmhouse, the
that
big
says
barn.
Echodale.
That one too. So,
Have any problem with that?
So that's,
I don't
because
know.
there was a whole raising money to help purchase the land and through past comic.
Yes. There's a small amount of money that's set aside to be used only for maintenance for Echodale, East and West. And that cannot be used for any other
Right.
open space project in the city.
But I thought there was something about that family buying the farm. Did
The city bought the city owns the APR on it, and then the
Right.
family runs the farm.
runs the
They
farm?
run the
On
farm.
Yeah.
And wasn't there something about allowing access, a trail around?
Oh, there is. On the deed for Echodale East, there shows around the boundary of that entire parcel a trail easement.
Yes.
But it's just follows
East
the
being
bound.
the farmland.
East
Behind
being
the
the
farmland.
other,
The one that comes down to West Street,
yes, this one.
the green.
But not, okay.
Doesn't seem right to me, but I'm sure.
It's just hard to wrap your head around,
Yeah,
my head
can't-
around, even because there's a huge gap between the two.
We can go onto the GIS and click on that and figure out what it is. I
Okay.
don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay. So we've at least started moving forward with figuring out what some of the things we need to work around on Equidale West.
So are
I had a
there?
few questions about it too.
Go ahead.
There is a stream that runs through the forested area in here. So I'm just wondering like how far we want to go in here. And then there's those strange and fascinating mounds, but I don't know if that would be like natural heritage or historical.
If it's not
commission
mapped
or-
as rare species habitat, it's not natural heritage.
Or what is it, historical?
Historical or something.
Archaeological.
Mass historical.
They don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is.
Cool. Hey, you want to contact Mass
Maybe it's a
Historical?
code.
Do we just pretend like?
No, we
They've had people,
Where
Russell
the-
said they had people out looking at it
Right.
at various times, but no one can
know what
really
the
tell what it is.
Where do you go to find that out?
Well, they would send somebody out to
State
assess it,
archive.
right? Is that?
I don't know.
You're probably to get an
We're
archaeologist.
No, they
pretty
would
far from
tell us
Boston.
to,
Hire a survey.
yeah, it'd be like,
Get an archaeological survey.
yeah, if we were gonna be doing anything.
There
like
are CPA funds that fund for historical things. If this was something, that would make sense, go to CPA and ask for funding for an
Archaeological survey?
archaeological survey of the area, if that's what needs to happen.
So maybe
So that's a possibility.
And then also just looking at what the extent of like wetland areas in
Mhm.
here is too. What's the thing? Oh, and then like what the actual trail is gonna look like, because the easiest thing would just be to have it be mowed
Mhm.
regularly. But is there someone, how does that work?
I don't know either. I think that's what we need to learn. So what are the options? The commission contracts with someone to
Well,
perform annual maintenance?
Who
Or
goes
bring-
around the community gardens?
The community gardens,
Gardeners.
gardeners, garden committee.
I think you're 7 steps ahead of where you need to be.
Yeah.
I think, you can't, doesn't make sense to try to figure everything out today.
Mhm.
So I think the first step is just get the wetland delineation and then take it from there. Then figure out what the next step would be from there on whether trees can be removed, should they not be removed, do they have to stay? And then go from there, one step at a time.
So,
So action one with the wetland delineation. Then you said something about needing someone to GPS.
So I
need
can
a
I can help you with the
GPS.
GPS and the mapping part of that.
okay,
If you-
so,
As can.
Are you putting flags out or? are you-
yeah,
okay.
yeah, nothing's labeled yet,
That's fine.
but that's the easy part.
It'd be helpful to get the trees as well.
Yeah, the tree inventory, so
Yeah.
GPS location of tree and
trees.
size and general condition, like live versus dead. There are a lot of birds out there.
Cool.
Good birding.
Are we looking to do something with the apple trees, or have we decided that's not?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
We don't know what the possibilities are. So I think it's, once we know physically what's there, what we need to work around, then like, kind of in parallel with that, we need someone who knows something to give us some direction. And then depending on what we decide, it's either putting together an RFP for rehab of the orchard or putting together an RFP for cutting of the apple trees and coming up with a different plan for the property. So we need to know if they're, and that other plan could be planting a new orchard. We just need to know what we're dealing with first. I don't know anything about apple trees.
I'm in the assessment phase,
Yes.
basically.
We're
Data
not-
collection and assessment.
Yeah, that's a great
Good.
point. And I think 2 actions are pretty much enough for us. We don't do well with action lists of these meeting minutes, so let's stick with 2. And we'll make more next time.
So, with that said, moving on.
Well,
What?
when are you guys gonna work on the delineation?
Not this weekend. And not the following weekend.
Okay. Keep us
So-
posted, because I would come help.
Okay.
Not that I know a thing, but
But that's good that you want to know.
I want to know.
Tyler Flag.
Yeah, I picked a tick today from our yard.
What?
Pretty much when that.
What?
There's a little tick on Andrew's shirt today. I was just saying that we have tick clothes because they're in our yard.
Fun.
Tick, tick.
Seriously.
So, meeting minutes approval. We, at our previous meeting, were unable to approve the minutes. Oh, for the love of for the May 11th, 2015 meeting. The quorum for that is myself, Dan Buttrick, Jay Ryan, and Jessica Harwood. So, of those people, would anyone care to make a motion regarding the May 11th, 2015 meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from May 11th.
Second.
Third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved.
So with commissioners, myself, who else is abstaining?
Me, Ashley,
Okay.
and Colleen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I've lost
Alright.
my ability to understand which pile of paper goes with that.
That's because they're merging into one giant pile.
That's very true.
That's why I'm staying.
So I think this is mail, that hasn't been even thought about yet.
Okay, what about May
These are
18th?
pleasure minutes.
Okay, May 18th.
No, those might be minutes that I brought too.
Yeah.
Yeah, May 11th, I think May 18th, something there too.
No.
Can we clean after?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the May 18th minutes.
So these
No,
are,
no, that's not.
Just have them. They're just there.
No,
She
these
just
are May
checked-
11th.
Yeah.
That's why they're back with me.
here's the 18th right there.
Yay.
Right. So this is the same people, I think. And I wrote these. This was Melissa, Dan, Jay, and Colleen.
Okay, so Kraus, Cockshaw, and Harwood. Okay. Kraus, Cockshaw, and Harwood.
Yeah,
All right,
beats.
got it.
In Washington DC with 36 kids.
Totally win. And you came back. You survived.
It was great.
All right, would anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from May 18th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Great,
Okay.
we're caught up on minutes. Can you hand me that pile of minutes? Thank you.
That's not exactly a pile. Like,
Okay.
It's not a pile
A
of minutes.
non-agenda item for the CPA
Yes,
is, they
please.
want those, or not more. Whatever our priority projects are they the same as what we had last year?
What did we have for last year?
Yeah.
Was that good deal at the top?
If you really want to do it, you can do it.
Oh, sorry.
Baseline. Conservation,
Yeah,
tree
this one,
signage,
this one,
through
this one.
signage at all kinds.
meeting minutes.
I think it's pretty good.
It's
Out the
pretty
hallway.
accurate. I think
Okay.
it's pretty generic and
Yep.
pretty accurate. I don't think we're ready for anything more specific.
I'll put those into the binder.
Okay, so David Hardy, 74 Queen Street. Oh, this is our file copy. Jessica, I'm gonna give this to you now, just so it stays out of the piles. This is the letter to Bernie. Ready to go.
What's this order of conditions here for? Is it our copy of
It's
something
our
that's
copy of a
recorded?
recorded order for the Town Beach project. So that's a file copy.
Yep.
Okay, it looks like there was a forest cutting plan for a Fedor property off of East Street. Does anyone want to take the lead on this tornado? It looks like it's tornado damage cleanup.
Tornado?
Microburst.
Microburst.
Okay.
Just Yes, you're right. They say tornado, it was the microburst. So does anyone want to take a lead on this?
I don't have time to do anything right now.
Can I take a lead on this?
Sure, I don't know what that means.
Research the property, look at the city's and state's mapping regarding wetlands. Yeah. Yeah, and if there are any mapped wetlands, we'll schedule a site visit. And if there aren't, just we'll make note of that for the records and call it a day. Okay, so do you care about warrant schedule?
That's all together.
No. No, I didn't think so. You care about PVPC?
It's annual meeting, which is on Thursday.
Anyone?
Nope.
Nope.
I need the bin. Okay, planning board decision, special permit decision.
4.
This is just a copy. Keystone Enterprises. Do you have to plug your ears? La 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 la.
Such
The copy of the decision.
It's just the.
I'm required to give you a copy.
Okay. Anyone wants to read it, they can.
Alright, otherwise, recycle. Yeah, you can read it.
How many people
Gerald
does it take to
and Brian.
recycle?
What is that? I'm sorry.
Oh, this is your correspondence to Eversource.
Yes, just
Regarding-
for your files.
Don't let that name.
Never responded back.
Decision. Viewpoint credentials. Oh, what's this?
Okay, so that, we'll talk about that another time. That's for the online permitting system that is trying to get up and running here. So conservation's gonna have to have that.
Special permit, Brook Street.
Is that not the one we talked about?
That's just
It
the-
is.
Okay.
This online permitting system, is that, when's the plan, the rollout for that?
Don't know, I haven't had a date yet.
There's this whole copy too.
So we make sure we have the same thing and
You're gonna,
reduce
there,
it.
yeah, your passcode and stuff for the online permitting system's on that top sheet, so don't lose that packet.
Yeah, that has to be filed.
Okay. Okay.
So what was the last thing, was the, was a motor field and NOI?
Meadowfield
I already
NOI.
have that.
We
Good.
got that. So I don't think there's anything else.
Okay. I move to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.